Can Deadpool really save the MCU? Let's talk about that. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to a spoiler-free review of the new MCU movie, Deadpool and Wolverine. This film is directed by, of course, Shawn Levy. Okay, guys, Deadpool and Wolverine non-spoiler filled review. Deadpool and Wolverine is the third film in the Deadpool franchise, a hugely successful A-tier character now, but hugely successful from a profit standpoint. And Deadpool and Wolverine is Deadpool's entry into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It sees Deadpool, who's trying to basically have a lifestyle of just being somewhat normal. He's been kind of put through the ringer, as we see in the last two Deadpool films. And unfortunately, as it's in the trailer, we see him pulled to the TVA, and he must stop an event from happening where it's going to affect his own world. So what does he do? He, instead of helping the TVA, he decides he's going to go on his own quest, and that's when we're introduced to a different variant of Wolverine. Now, Wolverine, of course, once again, is played by Hugh Jackman, very famous at this point, and they go on a quest to not only stop Cassandra Nova, who is basically the leader in the Void, which is a Marvel kind of world where things get pruned and so on and so forth. You saw in Loki, but he also has to contend with Wolverine himself, who is very angry, has been put in a situation where he caused a lot of strife in his own universe, and it basically becomes a team-up movie to not only introduce mutants into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but also introduce Deadpool and Wolverine into this world that we have come to know and love. But also, because it's a Deadpool movie, he has to basically commentate on the last decade of Marvel movies at this point, or at least the last 5 years. And it basically is Deadpool just commenting on Marvel universe and stuff like that. So it's rated R, it's very violent, and it's a Deadpool movie. So I was hugely excited for this film. I didn't put it in my top 10 because I'm not the biggest fan of Shawn Levy. I don't think he's a terrible director, but I think he's a very kind of journeyman director. Kind of, you know, they hire him, but he's become kind of a staple in like the crowd pleasing films like Free Guy and the Night at the Museum movies. Plus he produced, of course, Stranger Things, and he of course produced The Rival. So he has some pedigree there. But I worried about with this movie, I worried that it was going to be, as we've learned, like Spider-Man No Way Home, it was going to rely too much on the cameos. It was going to rely too much on the heavy use of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So going into these things, knowing what the Marvel Cinematic Universe has been, there has been a lot of kind of praise and a lot of kind of, you know, excitement for what Deadpool could bring to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They decided to make it rated R. They decided to keep to the tone of what Deadpool has been. It's a new direction, to be fairly honest. I mean, they did stuff like Werewolf by Night, and I think, you know, Moon Knight had a little bit of, you know, darkness to it. They've done, you know, they're bringing back Punisher and Daredevil and stuff like that. So there is a level of like going darker than what Marvel Cinematic Universe is known for. But the question really remains, now that Ryan Reynolds is getting his third film, they're bringing Hugh Jackman into the mix. This movie's going to make like $300 billion. Is the movie going to be any good? Is it going to live up to what the potential could be to continue forward this universe that has kind of fledged and failed and kind of just not been very good since Endgame? And for my honest review, this movie's hilarious. This movie's entertaining. This movie's fun. And overall, it's actually a mature story with Deadpool in it, to be fairly honest. And what I mean by that is, it has all the hallmarks of what you know for Deadpool. The mirk with the mouth, he commentates on the universe, he makes puns, he does everything you truly expect from Ryan, not only Ryan Reynolds, but Deadpool in general. You know, he's the kind of guy that breaks the fourth wall all the time. But this movie has its humor, but there is a level of sincerity to what Deadpool wants out of this world, what he has to do to protect his world, and the nature of what it's like when everything starts to collapse and how you plan to take care of yourself. And that's actually quite like, wow, I was really shocked by how deep this film gets, because you expect it to be like the last two Deadpool films, which had their moments of like humility and humanity, but this film goes deep. I mean, there are points where like Logan's character has to like commentate on like how disturbed his universe got and what he did and how he failed as a human being and as a superhero. And the fact that he plays so well, like Hugh Jackman plays so well off Ryan Reynolds, is not surprising, because you've seen all the like the behind the scenes, and they're just really fun to work work together with. But there is a level of maturity that I was not expecting, which is kind of surprising because this is from, I believe, the writers of like Zombieland. I think they worked on the other Deadpool films, if I remember right. Also, Ryan Reynolds was worked on this film. But I kind of truly appreciate that because I'm looking for films, especially, or movies in the Marvel Cinematic Universe that will push the boundaries of not only pushing forward the story, but will be really smart in how they do it. And I think Deadpool and Wolverine does that with spades. It's not a perfect movie because I think the introduction of Wolverine and Logan, like the actual one that we see, is really kind of edited choppily. There's some points in this movie where they just kind of quickly move forward through the movie itself, and it just kind of doesn't make any sense. But that doesn't take away from just how amazing they were, how amazing the story becomes. And I was really appreciative of that. I was really surprised. And on top of everything, you have the Deadpool humor. You have the great, opening intro sequence. You have the really funny, fourth wall breaking jokes, the play and the beat down of the Marvel Cinematic Universe in the last few years. You have the great how he just commentates. It's what Ryan Reynolds does so perfectly, and what helps the character become like an A tier level superhero is because he holds nothing back. Kevin Feige should be given a lot of credit. I mean, it's Kevin Feige, so he should be given a lot of credit to begin with because of what he did. But to be willing, and I actually give Disney a lot of credit, to be willing to go this ballsy with a film like this when your other films have been PG-13 and they go, somewhat dark. But this movie goes dark. I mean, it goes violent. It goes course. It goes everything you can imagine from a Deadpool movie, and it holds nothing back. I mean, it was pretty impressive, and once again, it is super, super funny. It is hilarious. I was laughing my butt off. It's amazing how they're just able to command the laughter and just make it work. Like I said, some of the jokes may not land with people, but I thought, it was done extremely well, and I appreciate that. I've always been never afraid for the very dark, disturbing humor that goes too far and pushes boundaries. There are some jokes in this movie that do that, but it also has a tendency, in which I really appreciate, of respecting what came before it, respecting what was in the past when it came to Marvel films. And I think that's appreciative when it becomes, you always made jokes with a lot of these films back in the day, the ones that came out, and the fact that they're willing to kind of reconfigure, replay, repurpose the story in general, the idea of these characters, and allow them to have some kind of respect and credibility is pretty amazing. And I don't want to get into like details. I'm not going to get into any details until I get into my spoiler review of why that is. But I think the fact that Ryan Reynolds just respects and appreciates while making fun of what came before, even in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and so on and before or beyond, is really appreciative. It really is nice. And that leads into the cameos themselves, which I think are some of the most impressive cameos that you may or may not see coming. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people can figure out some of the cameos coming, and I'm not going to spoil them until I get into my spoiler-filled review. But I think the cameos go beyond cameos, to be fairly honest. I think they're impressive. I think they're really well done. I think they're humorous and well-regarded and well-respected. They're going to be some of the best cameos the Marvel Cinematic Universe and Marvel in general has ever done. And you gotta basically, you gotta thank Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman and the crew and the cast and Kevin Feige and Shawn Levy and everybody who worked on it, because not only are they bringing a level of humor and hilarious, but they're also bringing a level of respect, which is really appreciative. And we've already seen in the trailers, if you haven't seen the trailers, a little bit of spoiler, Sabretooth's in this, the one from, of course, the X-Men franchise. I thought it was kind of funny how they handle his character, and there's other characters of which, once again, you have to go see the movie that you'll really appreciate while watching. But the other kind of thing that surprised me was, I think Cassandra Nova, the main villain of this movie, the woman that plays her, does a pretty nice job of portraying this character who actually has a little more dimension than a lot of Marvel Cinematic Universe characters have. And I think that's a nice lesson, and I hope they continue that lesson when they move forward in this universe, because as we've learned, a lot of the villains in these Marvel Cinematic Universe movies, or Marvel movies, or DC movies in general, are kind of bland, to be fairly honest. I'm not saying Cassandra is like the most well-rounded character, but I think the idea of who she is and what she is, and if you know Marvel at all, you know who she is well put together, well respected, and I think the idea of what she is trying to do is interesting. Once again, they could go deeper with her character, and I think she's once again just a one movie character. But I think overall, I think Cassandra Nova is a pretty decent villain, to be fairly honest. And the action's really good. The violence is, of course, over the top and silly. You know, some of the characters from the Deadpool movie, of course, show up maybe in smaller cameo roles, but you get like Peter, and you get Blind Owl, and you get, you know, Colossus and Negasonic Teen Warhead and stuff like that. And it's just, there's a lot of fun to be had in this movie, and I really liked it. Once again, I think the movie doesn't look very good on a CGI level, and of course, I mean, some of the CGI looks good, some of it doesn't, but on camera work, like cinematography, the picture, it's the movie itself, it's kind of flat, to be fairly honest. It's Shawn Levy. He just doesn't, he's not very adept to making really good looking movies. I think some of the action when it comes to how it's filmed can be a little confusing and jarring. It has that Transformers effect, the Michael Bay effect, where it's a little, like, some scenes are like really hard to follow, to be fairly honest. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because you're so in love for the 127 minutes of the movie you're watching that when you really think about it, it is a little difficult to see some of the action sequences and what they're doing. But I think they're still fun. I still think there's some great shock value, and the movie is going to be a crowd pleaser. It's going to make a huge amount of money, and what I say here doesn't really matter, but my official opinion is highly recommend this movie. I think it's fantastic, and I think it's a movie that is going to help the MCU rather than hurt it. I think this was a good choice to make it rated R. I think it was a good choice to allow this character to progress on a humility and humanity level. And once again, I love that Wolverine, they can add more depth than what they did, and of course Logan, which added a huge amount of depth to the character. And I love the fact that he is a very flawed individual more than he is a monstrosity of an individual, a beast of a character. And once again, as you saw in the trailer, he gets to wear his famous yellow suit, and there's a lot of great commentary on that. And there's a lot of great commentary in general on the movie itself and the ideas. So overall, I highly recommend Deadpool and Wolverine. I think it's fantastic. I think it's a lot of fun. It has small issues, but I think it's a real great summer popcorn film, as well as a great MCU movie. So highly recommend it. Definitely worth checking out. So with that said, that is my non-spoiler filled review of Deadpool and Wolverine. Will be out in theaters very, very shortly, but look forward to my spoiler filled review, where I'll talk about some of the jokes and some of the cameos and stuff like that, but look forward to that. Anyways, with that said, comments below, as I always say, let me know what you are looking forward with this movie. What are your predictions for this movie? Are you just excited in general? Just let me know overall. Otherwise, if you like what you see on this channel, hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium. Hit that notification bell at top to find what's coming next. If you like this video, awesome. Hit that like button. And as always, we'll see you guys on the next video. Peace out, guys.